RocSports, I'm back with another video. As you can tell by the title, this is my official top 10 pound for pound list with a couple of honorable mentions. Let's get right into it. So, Ring Magazine and ESPN pretty much expired this list. I mean, don't get me wrong, pound for pound is always a popular topic, but right now, it's very popular right now in the boxing community. And I figured I must get mine out, man. Like everybody else dropping one. Like I say, it's very popular. And it's all subjective. But I really feel like a lot of people's lists be biased. And a lot of people's lists be just straight up trash. Just keeping it honest. This is all my opinion. Let's get right into it. What are the reasons? Why was the pound for pound list created? Well, what is the definition of pound for pound, in your opinion? In my opinion, it's the top 10 top fighters in the world, right? And it's not the top 10 fighters who you like or none of that. I think it's literally the top 10 fighters, the best 10 fighters in the world. Given a number of things. It's just elite fighters that, first thing first, no heavyweights are on my list. Let me say that. Heavyweights, to me, they bigger than everybody else. They can't move up. They're not going to move down. That doesn't mean that they're not good fighters. It don't mean none of that. But we talking about more so skill and all of that for me. And it covers a lot for pound for me. And no heavyweights is on this list, period. Resume. First thing first, we have to start with resume, obviously. Who, when, how did you beat them? Opponents definitely matter. So, I'm not putting nobody on this list that haven't fought nobody really. You know what I mean? That haven't really proven themselves on a fight that they was necessarily an underdog in, or a fight that they, you know, wasn't highly favored in. That matters. When did you beat that person? Meaning, you know what I mean? Was that person coming off a loss? Was that person very hot in his career? Did he string together a couple of wins? If he was, you know, if the fighter wasn't undefeated, did he string together a lot of wins coming back to, you know what I mean, to make him relevant, not just beating fighters with that doesn't have really a name. One thing about top 10 pound for pound fighters, or at least that it should be, they can beat other elite fighters, not just look good against, you know, what boxing fans will call trash cans or Uber drivers, you know. But on top of who and when, how did you beat them? If it was a nip and tuck straight decision for nobody that wasn't a top 10 pound for pound fighter, I have to hold that against you. And also, pound for pound list should change often because fighters fight often. So I don't want to hear no, you know, fighters that, or people that critique other pound for pound lists by saying, oh, you just had this person ranked here and now you haven't ranked it, because he just fought. You know what I mean? Or other fighters are fighting and it should shake up. Just like no different than in NBA or NFL, rankings change week to week because everybody play games. You know what I mean? So pound for pound list should change often, every 6 months to a year, if not 3 to 6 months. A few fighters on here that can't do certain things, but they're just dominant. You know what I mean? But also skills, and they're willing to fight. Almost everybody that's on this list are not duckers. Nobody on this list duck fights. But because this is the top 10 fighters out of so many fighters, who knows how many fighters it is that we just, you know, that's notable to qualify for a pound for pound list, let alone in fights, period. So we have to nitpick when we talking about 10, distinguishing 10 fighters from the whole pack. We have to nitpick. So 7 through 10 and honorable mentions. Okay, so my first honorable mention, Juan Estrada. Arguably he should be on this list, but he's not on my list. I'm not about to go into each detail of why. He's top 5 for a lot of people, all of that. I see all of that. But he's not on my list, but he's just outside of it. as well as Cool Boy Steph and Tank. They're not on my list. Cool Boy Steph, I really wanted to add to this list, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so who do you take off when it comes to him? So I really wanted to add Cool Boy Steph to this list. But in terms of Tank, man, Tank in terms of skills is not 10 fighters better than Tank nor Cool Boy Steph. But when we talking about Tank, man, Tank hasn't fought nobody. Let's be honest. We have to keep it real, man. If we talking about a fight that Tank was an underdog in, what do we have to go back to? Pedraza? And was he really an underdog in that? Don't get me wrong. I know it was the people that was picking Pedraza to win that. But was he really an underdog in that? Estrada, we just got to see more, man. I mean, I know he's been around and, you know, he's done his thing. But he's not active enough for me. And to keep it real, a lot of the smaller weights, I don't pay attention to. It's only a handful of fighters from 122 on down. It's only a handful of fighters I watch. I pick and choose. From Inoue to Chocolatito to Estrada to Bam, Rigo when he was at, you know, it's a couple of fighters. But so I know about him. But I want to see more, man. I need to see more. Cool Boy Steph should, like I say, could arguably be on this list. You could put him over a couple of fighters, but he's cleaning out a division, man. He's really cleaning out a division, and he's fighting some fighters. So he's one fight away from becoming that undisputed. And then if we can get that super fight with him and Inoue, he gonna make a big leap on my list. So Cool Boy Steph, keep doing what you're doing, straight up. At number 10, I got Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is undisputed. Nothing needs to be said about Josh Taylor. He's a very skillful fighter. Excuse my dog. He's a very skillful fighter that just had one bad performance, in my opinion, his last fight. But stop sleeping on Josh Taylor and act like he's not what he is. He's an undisputed fighter, and he deserves some respect. The people that don't have him on their list, he should be on your list, bro. Straight up. At number 9, probably the mean and scariest fighter in boxing, Beterbiev. However you say his name, I don't want to be disrespectful, but Beterbiev, he's a killer, man. 18-0, 18 knockouts. Straight like that, he's just a straight killer. Everybody know about him. We need to see him in bivol, period. Shakurstevenson, skill-wise, is not 5 fighters better than Shakurstevenson skill-wise. Legit. Shakur can do everything. He can fight coming forward, fighting backwards, side to side. He's very defensively sound. The best defensive fighter in boxing. He's very good at going to the body. Got a great jab. He's probably the best at distance as well. Shakur is a monster, man. He's a master. And he's going to be number 1 very soon. At number 7, Dmitribivol. Probably the most popular fighter who's grown within the past, 3-4 months since the Canelo fight. However long it's been. It ain't been that long, but however long it's been, Dmitribivol is the real deal. Everybody know about him, man. If you didn't know, you know now. You can shuffle these guys any way you want to. Don't get me wrong. I started to put Josh Taylor at 6 just because, again, I value belts. I value who you fought. I'm very high on Regis Pro Grade, all of that. I value that. So you can shuffle this anyway, but this is how I shuffle it. 7 through 10 with 3 honorable mentions. That's 4 through 6. At number 6, I got the truth, Devinhaney. Devinhaney, if you don't know, I'm going to say this every time Devinhaney is mentioned on my channel. Devinhaney, my video about Devinhaney is called The Truth About Devinhaney. That's the biggest video I have on this channel. Everything that I said about Devinhaney was pretty much about how he wants all the smoke. He's the real deal from the standpoint of he's the type of fighter that everyone should support and like. All of that. Go watch the video. Devinhaney is undisputed at 23 years old. I don't want to hear about Devinhaney can't hit this hard or he can't knock this person out. He didn't drop it. Devinhaney is undisputed at 23 years old. Regardless of what flaws that you may say he have, this dude is one of the best defensive fighters in the game. I have him number 2 right behind Shakur Stevenson. as well as he arguably has the best jab in boxing. He has a top 3, top 5, if not number 1 jab in boxing. Easy. And he's only getting better. Like I said, he's 23 years old, man, and he's undisputed. Nothing needs to be said about Devinhaney. Skills pay the bills. He's just like shakurstevenson in terms of there's almost nothing that he can't do. Do I want to see some more power from Devin? Absolutely. But Devin is as skillful as they come. And he's going to be an all-time great. Period. At number 5, the most disrespected fighter right now in boxing, that's jermellcharlo. People that don't know, jermellcharlo is fighting Tim Tszyu later this year. Already, he had 30 days to agree. Post they last fight with his rematch with Castaño. jermellcharlo is undisputed. He's 35-1-1. His 2 hiccups on his resume, he avenged them. Tony Harrison came back, knocked him out. Got the draw with Castaño, came back, knocked him out. One of the deepest division in boxing, Charlo has cleaned out. He don't have to fight Tim Tszyu, but he is, though. As not a fighter that you can't say that Charlo ducked. And he deserves to be pound for pound, period. He's knocking these dudes out. It ain't even like he's... Come on, man. Charlo is pound for pound, period. At number 4, Caneloalvarez. Caneloalvarez is coming off a loss. I could have had him at 8 or 7, but again, I value wins and I value belts. Canelo is undisputed at 168. He moved up to 75 to continue to challenge himself and be great. This is not a bash Canelo video, but when we talking nitpicking, I arguably really could have him down a little bit further. But I respect Canelo because I had him number 2. And because of that loss, I'm dropping him number 4. But he should be a little bit lower. But I got him at number 4, Canelo. At number 3, 23-0. Inoue is one of the most exciting, efficient killers in the game. Period. Has all the skills offensively. It's not much to say about him in terms of he's a killer. Period. Inoue is a dog, man. What he did to Nonito Donaire this last time speaks volume, but at the same time, not gonna overreact like a lot of people and rank him over Terence Crawford and errolspence just because he, especially Terence Crawford, just because he knocked out a 39 or 40-year-old fighter, whatever he is. And I know Nonito Donaire has put together some wins. I get that, but no, that doesn't trump what they have been doing the past couple. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't do that for me. That's no different than. You know what? We'll leave it at that. Anyway, at number 3, he's one fight away from becoming undisputed. Just like I said about the fighter that's above him and Stephen Fulton. So if we can get that fight, that's on the same level as when we talking big fights in boxing, man. Terence Crawford and errolspence, bivol, errolspence, all of them, they on the same level as that, man. So that'd be a hell of a fight if we can get that. Errolspence at number 2, the truth. Nothing needs to be said about Errol, the best body puncher in the game, relentless, straight dog. Errolspence and Terence Crawford are my favorite 2 fighters. They are 1 and 2. You can have them anyway, 1 and 1A. Errolspence has been cleaning out a deep division, the hottest division at the time when he first stepped on the scene. Went overseas and did what he had to do in a hostile environment, similar to what we just seen Dmitribivol do now. Terence Crawford did the same thing in a sense. But it's not nothing that errolspence can't do. Period. He's the truth. Which brings us to number 1. The best fight ever, Terence Crawford and errolspence. We need to see it. Terence Crawford is not nothing that he can't do. Period. So I look at it like this. If we was to do matchups, Inoue and Terence Crawford, even weight, even playing field, all of that, who you got? It's a hell of a fight, but I'm going with Terence Crawford. This is a slight edge. That's why I got him 1 and 3. Hence why, stuff like that. Canelo and errolspence, or Canelo and Terence Crawford, if it was an even weight, which they don't mean that they can't beat him now if it was like at 160 or something. But an even weight, let's just say if they naturally was the same size, can Canelo beat Terence Crawford? Hell no. Just off skills alone? No, he can't. He can't. And again, this is all subjective. I know it is. One thing about everybody on this list, almost everyone, as well as all fighters in boxing for the most part, we need to see these dudes more, man. It's such an honor and a privilege to watch these dudes display their talents. All of these dudes are great in their own right. Because when you're watching guys like Bivol, Beterbiev, he might not necessarily be able to move and fight off his back foot, say a Terence Crawford or a Devinhaney, but he's a killer in his own right. You know what I mean? Whereas you have the fighters like a Errolspence, he might not have one punch knockout power like a Charlo, his stablemate, but he's a killer in his own right. He's relentless in his, you know what I mean? Terence Crawford, he might not be physically imposing like a Errolspence, but he's a killer, you know, and we can keep going down the line. Devinhaney might not have the punching power as most of the fighters on this list, but he's a master at what he do. Stop telling me what he can't do. Let's look at what these fighters can do. As well as, and on top of that, what they can do, let's see what they can do when they're fighting somebody on their level. Devinhaney was an underdog to a lot of people. Don't get me wrong, he was a favorite, but he was an underdog in a lot of ways going into this fight, this last fight. A lot of people was picking Kambosos. Kambosos goes off to sense of how did he beat him? He washed Kambosos. When did he beat him? Coming off the biggest win in his career and beating Teofimo Lopez. You know what I mean? Where did he beat him? Let's throw that one in for Devinhaney. He beat him in his backyard with 40,000. That's what I'm saying, man. That's pound for pound to me. That's different. These 10 fighters are different from the pack. It's RocSports. I ain't going to hold you too much longer. I'm checking out. All of my boxing, NFL, and NBA fans, like, share, and subscribe, man. Keep coming back. I'm going to be dropping more content.